How you doing?
Get Robbie!
Fucking subscribe, mate. Fucking subscribe. Alright? Now.
Yeah, how are you?
Good, I'm psyched. Psyched to chat about Australia. Australia, mate.
Seeing as we can't go climbing out ourselves, let's talk about past climbing trips.
That's all we can do right now is think about what, our past climbing trips, achievements of yesteryear. We really don't have anything else to do but dream of what once was and what possibly may still become, what may yet to be.
It's getting emotional.
Yeah, man, I went to Australia. That was an interesting trip, actually. I'd always wanted to go to Australia my whole life, and that was like that was an amazing year. 2014, I think it was. Actually, I've traveled all over the world, and Australians have always been the people I've gotten along with best. I think it's something to do.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Get out.
Sorry.
Get out.
Want to be on the video? Video?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Jamie's sister's husband.
Oh Jesus, wait. Thanks for that news there.
We've got some technical issues here. Yeah, I'd always wanted to go to Australia, and I'd travelled all over the world, and Australians always seem to be the people that I got along with best. Something about the, syncing of the Scottish and Australian dry sense of humour.
Pumping Jimmy!
Because you went over as a sport climber, didn't you? Like that was like all your kind of previous climbing was all the sport climbing and gym climbing.
Yeah, at that time of my life, I was purely a sport climber and a boulderer. I'd come from climbing competitions. I was, really into going outside sport climbing in, Spain and France and that sort of thing. But I had done almost zero amount of trad and no big wall or multi-pitch climbing at that point. I'm a hardcore trad climber. Look at all this gear I've got. I don't know. I'm placing a lot of dodgy gear. Safe. And not taking any falls. And climbing lots of really easy routes.
Robbie, trad climbing? What the hell is this?
Why aren't you taking any falls? Don't you trust your gear?
Not just yet. Oh, maybe. Getting there. Been testing the gear coming down from the routes.
Awesome placement there, Robbie.
None of it's exploded yet, which has been a good thing. So maybe we'll be able to take some falls pretty soon. So yeah, it was I think it really was a spark that kind of ignited my passion for more adventurous things. And it was a year after that I first got into big walling and multi-pitch climbing.
What was some of the highlight climbs? Because as you said, you travelled around, you sampled a lot of it
So I think Arapiles was probably one of the best times, one of the best places I went. And the thing I really wanted to do more than anything was punks in the gym. And punks in the gym is this mega classic 8B plus. It's given the grade of 32 in Australia. It was put up originally by Wolfgang Gulich. He was the first ascensionist back in, I think it was 1984. At the time, the world's hardest climb. And yeah, I really wanted to do this route. So I think it was one of the first routes really that I got on in Arapiles. I kind of just went straight there, gave it a couple of days effort, and then managed to complete it, managed to send it, which was an unbelievable feeling. I was really psyched.
Super.
Any Robbie?
Impressive, man. Impressive.
And I was really chuffed as well because my friend Logan Barber, who I've actually climbed all over the world with, and we've climbed big walls together and sport climbed together a lot. Logan had been trying the route for 7 years. He'd been trying punks and gym for 7 years, and I actually got to belie him on his ascent as well, which was shortly after I did it. So that was actually, as much as doing the route myself, it was cool to belie him on his ascent too. It was amazing to be there. And then also in the Arapiles, I climbed this route called Lord of the Rings, which is great. It's a cool route, great name, but it's named because the bolts themselves are these ring bolts, which I've never really seen anywhere else. They're like the hanger for them's like the ring on the nose of a bull, and you clip that. And so it's you become Lord of the Rings by climbing this thing.
Yeah.
Back to a time before this, but this venom keeps rising. Oh, this venom keeps rising. Hey, it's a chemical rising. Oh, love me now. It's rising. It's a chemical rising. Oh, love me now. Hey, it's a chemical rising. Oh, love me now. Hey, it's a chemical rising. It's a chemical rising. There is nothing I can do. I swear there's sound. I swear there's sound. There is nothing I can do.
Nice. Cheers. Take that. Nice job. Cheers.
But one time when I did it, I took a victory jump off the top, and because the rings themselves, they kind of sit kind of weird on the rock, like the carabiner off my quick draw got flipped, cross-loaded, and when I fell onto it, it snapped completely. The metal snapped.
La broken beaner.
It snapped. So I was at the top of Lord of the Rings, so I jumped off onto what was apparently, I'm thinking, a cross-loaded beaner, or a quick draw, and yep, I just heard a and then fell really, really far. I got a bit of a bruised arm here and yeah, it was quite an experience. I thought I was going to die as I was flying through the air. To be honest, I thought the rope had snapped. Then when I realised I was slowing down, I thought, oh, the bolt must have snapped. Thank God the rope is still in one piece. And then I stopped, and life goes on. Thank you, Lord of the Rings.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, and oh yeah, it was one of the other big routes on my to-do list was the classic 8A Eye of the Tiger, which actually is in the Grampians, not too far from Arapiles, and it's completely banned now. Like, you can't climb there anymore due to the Aborigines. That is like that area is kind of sacred to them in the Grampians, so a lot of these areas have now been closed. There's currently a huge debate in Australia about whether or not climbers should be allowed to climb the crags. So that's still ongoing at the moment. But at the time when I climbed at Moulin, it was, you know, completely allowed. It was okay. But now it's been banned. So I was kind of glad that I got to go there and like tick off that classic 8A called Eye of the Tiger. And it's probably one of the most incredible features I've ever seen. This humongous like eye, like red scooped cave in the side of this cliff, and you blast through the steepest section of it out. Yeah, one of the best crags in the Grampians was the gallery, and the gallery is banned now as well. No one can climb there, but for sure that had some super cool lines in it. Monkey Puzzle was this amazing 7C plus, which I climbed 513 on-sighted that one. It's got this goes to a super cool roof feature. Also the Petit Mort. I think that was 8A, but pretty hard for the grade. And like that's had some sick like shouldery moves on it, down low, bouldery sequence, and then kind of pumpy finish. Yeah, so like I'd say like the highlight of the trip, but total like kind of like cherry on top as well at the same time, was Haggisaurus Rex, which was a first ascent that I got in Australia, and it was this unclimbed project that had been attempted for years by numerous, climbing suitors, but no one had been successful. good friend of mine, Lee Kudges, had tried it, and he ended up making like a sort of easier link from below into it. But nobody had managed to complete like the direct start, and so like my friends like JJ, who's a local there, and Lee, they kind of gave me permission to try and climb Haggisaurus, via the direct. I thought it was really cool that the locals said I could try it, and so I gave it a go. And over the course of a few days, pieced the start together. It ended up being like a V10 boulder problem, and then one day I just came along, and with his film crew actually, who just wanted to film me on it, and managed to blast through that bottom section of the route, and then just managed to keep it together. And the last section is probably like 80 in its own right, super pumpy as well, and very sequency. I managed to hold it together and climb all the way to the top, and made the first ascent of this route. It was called the Business Time Project, which I thought was a shit name, so I named it Haggisaurus Rex, because I'm Scottish and I love haggis, and the rock looks like dinosaur skin, so I thought Haggisaurus Rex. That makes complete sense to me.
That's brilliant. It actually does. Looking at what kind of rock it is, because it does look like scales.
Yeah, so the rock is rhyolite, which I think is, is it volcanic? Yeah, I think it's like a volcanic rock, and it's created when lava or magma, I think, comes up these sort of dikes, these tubes, and creates this really interesting sort of hexagonal formations. So all the features are basically like hexagonal scales. It's like I've never seen anywhere in the world like it. Honestly, it's one of a kind. It's like Giant's Causeway in Ireland flipped upside down into a roof, and it makes the climbing there so hard. Like, you can't read the rock. There's loads of knee bars and trickery. It's like the most trickery and beta intensive place I've ever been, and like I managed to on-site 180 there, I think, but like that was I think that was like a fluke. Like I think that on-siting 8A plus or 8B there would be like desperate. Like I would actually think that Ondra might even struggle. Like it was really, really, really hard. But like really cool place and really unique. I got the first ascent of Haggisaurus Rex, and then made the second ascent of one of the other routes of the crag, which at the time was the hardest route, called Friction Addiction. But Haggisaurus was just like much harder and more sustained than, Haggisaurus Rex was just much harder than the other routes there at the time, and I, pushed the boat out and suggested the grade of 8C, which there is 33, and at the time there was not a grade 8C or 33 in Queensland, so it became the hardest route in Queensland, which was a lovely sort of prize to take away for that time, like the hardest route in Queensland. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Psyched, first ascent. Now I've got to think of a name. Awesome. Oh, now I can go home. Wicked. Can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
That's mega. Hardest route.
Yeah. And it's called Haggisaurus Rex, and I think the locals have started calling it the Hag, which I actually am pretty disappointed in.
Wow, not even Haggis
bloody
like.
Haggisaurus Rex. The hag sounds like a witch. It's like, it's definitely not a witch. It's a bloody Haggisaurus.
It would be quite funny if, like, for like years, the only repeats were Scottish people.